Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Full Timeout Podcast. I'm your host, Ari Bruckman. Joining us this week, our very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Dr. Carlton Calhoun. Doc, how are we doing today?
Doing amazing, Ari. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show here, talk with us, and really add value to the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
So, Doc, tell me a little bit about how you found yourself in a field where you're motivating, you're public speaking, and you're encouraging other people to pursue their dreams.
Well, to be honest, it actually found me. My background is education. I taught high school and college mathematics. But interestingly enough, excuse me, I've always sought ways to earn extra income. I love teaching. I love the concept of education, not necessarily the system of education, if that makes sense. About 20 years ago, I started my first business, web design. So I've literally been doing web design for about 20 years. But the thing with web design, I was the only one reaping the benefits of it, if that makes sense. I can make money, but I was unable to help other people make money. So about 2 years ago, a very good friend of mine, a gentleman I've been knowing about 18 years, introduced me to the concept of investing in foreign currencies and digital currency. And that's when I started on this journey of teaching people how to multiply their money. So it's been an amazing ride, been able to see and help a lot of people change their lives over the past 2 years. And the great thing about it, we believe we're just getting started. So that's how I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, and you talk about, just coming upon trying to find other ways to generate money. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, their businesses aren't profitable right away, right? Or even necessarily in the first few years, 5 years of really getting going. They're constantly looking for ways to earn extra income. Obviously, that kind of put them in a better position to either reinvest in their own business for trial and error or to just stay afloat, right? Pay the bills, pay rent. Why did Forex, why did that seem like, because I know right now there's a stigma behind it, right? For a lot of people who don't know what it is. At first, can you explain what it is and talk about that stigma and why there's potential for growth and prosperity doing it?
Absolutely. Forex is short for the foreign exchange. And what it is simply exchanging the currency of one country for the currency of another. I always give the example, if you've ever traveled, let's say from the United States to Europe, well, the dollar is less in value than the euro. So they don't want our money. So you have to exchange the dollar for the currency of the country that you go to. Well, we found that we can make money, we can actually generate profits doing that on the digital platform. And I always tell people, you're already participating in it. The reason why is if you have a savings account, the bank uses your savings account to trade in the markets. That's why they give you a very small return on your money at the end of the year. And Ari, I believe it has such a negative stigma attached to it because if we're being completely honest, people want something for nothing. So they believe that they can give their money to somebody to multiply it for them. Well, those of us who know how the industry works and how the concept works, we know that it's something that you have to do for yourself. You have to develop the skill. And I always tell people, the people who are getting scammed are the people who want something for nothing. There is nothing in life of value that you can get without absolutely putting some skin in the game, whether it be money, whether it be time. You have to be willing to invest some skin in the game. You have to put some collateral in the game to get a return out. And because people don't want to work, people want instant gratification, instant success. That's why people are getting scammed. And then that carries over to the people who really want to find a better way for themselves.
I want to stay with that for a moment here. We can talk about right after the instant gratification because I was just talking to another entrepreneur actually yesterday about that, right? And we were talking about that being applicable specifically in the fitness industry. I mean, come on, man, you start a workout, right? And after a few workouts or a few weeks, you get the right plan from somebody you believe who's highly credible, right? You pay the money, you're invested, and you don't look like Arnold. who has
Right.
put in 30 years, you know what I mean? He's put in 30 years of hard work to be able to get to where he is, yet alone you don't know what supplements he's taking. You don't know what he's putting in his body. And, you know, you kind of have to say, well, is he being completely transparent? Whatever the case may be. So I think that, you know, first it's about establishing these set of expectations for yourself that can kind of be achievable within the right amount of time, right? Within this timeline. Can you explain how an investment for Forex works? And for somebody who says, well, okay, well, if I'm looking to try it, what is a reasonable timeline to see a return on my investment that makes sense?
Okay, so great question. How it works is all currencies, commodities, stocks, they're all part of the financial markets. The way it works is you're literally making money based on the fluctuation of the markets. It's just like stocks. Most people, though, only believe you make money when you buy stock and the stock goes up in value. And that's not true. There are things called shorting stocks. In fact, one of my favorite movies is The Big Short, where they were banking on the housing market to crash. Well, if you're on the right side of that, that's how you make money. The same applies to Forex. Let's say we're trading the euro against the dollar. We know that the euro is stronger than the dollar. If it's trending in the direction of the euro, well, from a trending perspective, meaning that the market is going up, we're looking for buys. So if we get in at a certain position and the market increases above that position, we make money on the spread. On the flip side, if the market is trending in what we refer to as a bearish or a downward direction, and we sell at the top of that fall, we make money on that spread. And we always tell people trading is not difficult, it's just new. And of course, people learn it at different paces. So what may work for one individual in terms of time may not work for another. But we like to tell people you should be willing to commit about an hour a day, 4 to 5 days a week. In about 90 days, you won't be an expert, but you'll have a pretty decent understanding of how everything works. If you're willing to commit about 12 to 18 months, again, you won't be an expert, but you'll be consistent enough, you'll be confident enough, you'll be proficient enough to be a profitable trader. The challenge is, even though the time is going to pass anyway, in people's mind, they think 12 to 18 months is a long time, so they don't put into work. When it passes, they always say, man, I should have got in then. Well, time is on your side when you really think about it. You may as well fill it up with something productive. And learning the skill of trading and investing is, I believe, one of the most productive skills that you can learn.
So something I find really interesting, there was a point in time that you had mentioned, it's a mindset, right? To view an opportunity like that, to not panic when the stock market crashes, when everybody's frantic and thinking their life's over and everything's done, instead of pulling your money, right? Because you've already lost, right, a lot of your money at that point. Instead of pulling it, why not look at that as an opportune time to say, hey, we can actually get into the market now, buy a lot more at this rate. We know it's going to go up eventually. It might be 5 years, might be 10, but that's why you're investing and you're playing with money you don't need right now. Can you talk about that mindset and how you were able to craft that for yourself, just what you teach people now to be able to endure something like that?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. We like to say that trading is about 95% mental. The other 5% is the technical and fundamental analysis. When you're willing to work on your mindset and you understand that everything has its cycles, no matter how bad the winter is, you know eventually spring is coming. So when you apply this to the financial markets, when you're looking at investing, everything that goes up eventually must come down, and everything that goes down eventually must go up. So if you look at traditional investing, for example, I believe when the pandemic happened around last March or April, a lot of people don't realize that was one of the worst recessions we've had since the Great Depression. They literally shut markets down. If you really go back, we know this because we were trading that day. All we saw was the red drop on our candles, and everybody was excited because we were all in sales or shorting the market. And then they cut it off. One of the things that I like to stress to people in our trading community is when most people are panicking, you should be buying. Why? Because everything is on sale. When people are pulling their money out of the market, savvy investors know that it's time to buy because companies are on sale, commodities are on sale, and we know it's just a matter of time before everything recovers. So when the average person is panicking, taking money out, those of us who have the resources and the understanding of putting money in. It's like when the holidays come around, the best day to buy things during the Christmas season is the day after Christmas because people are returning things they don't want and everything is at a discounted rate. It's the same with investing. There's a saying, when there's blood in the streets, buy gold. When the average people are panicking, people who don't understand how the markets work, people who don't understand long-term thinking, that's when you start to dump your money into the market because you can buy things at discounted rates. And if you're patient enough, it will all turn around and start to go back up.
Is there a mechanism? Is there something that you tell yourself in those situations, or is there something that you educate people on that is internal? Because I know you talked about 95% of it being mental. Is there a thought process, or are there things that can be done? Whether it's, I don't even know if it's maybe like taking a step back and meditating about the situation, man, but I believe that there's a distinct process that you have to go through. I know for myself, when I'm in a situation where it feels like something's out of my control, rather than having that emotional response, I want to say, okay, Ari, don't act on emotion. Let's use logic, take a step back and breathe. Is there something you tell yourself? Is there a process that you go through?
Well, I think the process is part of the journey to success in general. You have to be consistently and constantly indulging in personal growth and self-development. That's building your mental armor 4 times when things aren't going your way. And it applies to not only Forex and investing, but every area of your life. In relationships, when things aren't going your way, you need to step back. I would venture to say that 9 out of 10 emotional decisions all turn out badly. We teach people not to trade when you're emotional. If you're extremely excited, don't trade and invest. If you're feeling low or experiencing some form of depression, don't trade it or invest, because now your emotions are clouding your judgment. It's not an emotional process. You have to literally detach yourself from the process. You win some, you learn some. That's it. And you have to understand that that's part of the cycle. So it's never an emotional decision. And if you do anything emotionally, like I said, 9 times out of 10, it probably won't turn out in your favor.
When you think about how you've been able to build your own armor, is there one experience, or are there a set of experiences that you can kind of recall off the top of your head, not just in trading, but in just in life or business, that come to mind where you said, man, I'm not sure if I can get through this, get through that, and all of a sudden you realize really anything's possible for you if you're willing to endure whatever it takes?
Absolutely. About 15, 16 years ago, I was involved in some very harsh legal matters, things beyond my control, which, looking back, everything is within your control because everything is based on decisions that you make. I wasn't making the right decisions. I found myself in the wrong place at the wrong time, which caused me to have to go through some very tough legal battles. And Ari, that was one of the lowest times of my life. I literally believe that I went through an extended, well, temporary, but for me, extended period of depressive state. I wouldn't leave the house. My best friend would go shopping for me. It was horrible. And they got to a point where I said, you know what? Enough is enough. That's the first time I discovered the movie The Secret. And that opened the door to personal growth and self-development. That's when I started to research successful people, and they all had common traits. They all worked harder on themselves than they did at their professions or their jobs. So I said, you know what? If these people are doing that, and this is the type of success that they have, it only makes sense because I've always been an intelligent person. I've made some not so intelligent decisions, but I've always been an intelligent individual. So I put two and two together. If these individuals are doing these things and they're getting these results, the only difference between them and me is time. If I'm willing to be patient and put in the time and do the things that they did, then it only makes sense to me that in time I'll have the results that they have. So that was it for me. It was going through that tough period and realizing that I was better than my situation. See, my situation, I was allowing that to define me. And now I don't allow my situation to define me. And if I was able to make it out of that, I took on the mindset that if it doesn't kill me, it literally makes me stronger. And I've been able to apply those lessons from 15, 16 years ago to everything that I do right now. So I'm able to detach myself emotionally from the process. And I know that if I make the right decisions and I fill my mind and my thoughts with the right information and do the right things, it's only a matter of time before I get the right results.
Yeah, Doc, that's a mindset that's not crafted one day, 1 week, right? That's something I would assume even today, you still revisit to just
Exercising.
remember, hey, I've heard The Rock talk about it, I've heard other people talk about it, right? Where, hey, your back's up against the wall, right? Or you're in this position. And as long as you remember you're in that position, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much success, right? You endure throughout your life. You'll remember kind of what it means to be humble when you had nothing or you're going through that time. When you talk about, going through that period of time, can you share the mental aspects that you were faced with? But what was that turning point then where you said, man, this just isn't sustainable. The quality of life that I'm living, what I'm trying to do right now, there's got to be more. This can't be it.
I think I hit emotionally and mentally rock bottom. And one thing about hitting the bottom, the only way to go is up. I realized I couldn't go lower. And I refused to settle for the situation that I was in. And as I said, that's when I discovered the secret, and it unlocked a place in my mind that I never explored before. See, now I realized that I can create a life and earn a living from the neck up instead of from the neck down. And I started to exercise my mind. And as you said, it's not something that happens overnight. It's not something you can start today and tomorrow it just clicks. It's like you mentioned Arnold and what he had to go through to get to where he was. Same thing mentally. It's a consistent and continual process every day, piece by piece, building that mental muscle that most people don't do. See, most people allow their mental muscles to atrophy by watching TV. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch TV if that's what you want to do. In fact, when I can't sleep, TV relaxes me, but it's what you allow the TV shows to do. It's called television programming for a reason. You have to select the programs that you allow into your mind because your thoughts dictate how you feel dictate actions you take, and the actions you take dictate the results you get. So it all starts with the way you think. That's why personal growth and self-development is so vitally important, regardless of your industry. You could be a chef, but if you want to be a chef at the top of the class, then you need to do something that most chefs aren't doing. And that starts with the way you think.
Yeah, Steve Harvey, he broke it down metaphorically and just in a really interesting way, right? He talked about, when you turn on the television, when you pick up the remote and you type in whatever your cable provider, 1602, whatever the channel is, and you expect ESPN to come on. What comes on? ESPN comes on. When you hit the power button on your remote, that TV turns on, right? You expect that TV to turn on. So it's about creating that expectation then for yourself. So if you don't put in that work, if you don't take the time to work on yourself, if you don't fine tune the skills and you say, well, I'm only good at this, I'm never really going to touch anything else. I'm just going to stay right here in this comfort zone forever. I'm just going to kind of stay here. And you should expect to receive whatever, you've kind of limited yourself to.
Right.
And I think that also goes a long way too, when you talk about other areas, not just investing, but as an entrepreneur, even starting your own business, you have to believe in what you're going to see, because you can't show it to anybody right away. Right. So nobody else is going to believe that. it's important for you to believe that. You've helped 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs, building their companies, building their brands. Tell me, what have you seen that has been successful and applicable now that you think other entrepreneurs, I'm not asking you, I don't want you to give away all your tips, obviously, Doc, but just to some regard here, in some regard, if you could share some of what you've seen have success that you think they could apply.
Well, Ari, I think it's actually very cool. Find somebody in your field who has the results that you desire and do what they do. Now, I like being realistic. For a lot of people, that mentor who you aspire to be like, you probably can't touch them. You probably can't reach them. But you can consume their information. You can read their books. You can follow them on Instagram if they have one. You can like their page on Facebook. See, it's not the mentor that you need per se. It's the information. You have to be willing to take and absorb the information and put it into practice. And that's what most people won't do. See, they want the cars. They want the houses. They want the clothes. But this is the question that you have to ask yourself, especially if you're on your own journey towards success for you. You want what that person has right now. But do you want to be who that person was before they had what they have? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you willing to start from the bottom? Because most people who are successful started from the bottom. There are always exceptions. There are people who were born to money. There are people who come from wealth and privilege. I'm not one of those people. I come from wealth and privilege in terms of the amount of love and affection that I was given. I never missed a meal. But when it comes to material things, I started from the bottom. I saw people, and I still have mentors who have what it is that I desire. I have to be willing to be who they were in their journey. That's hungry. That's committed. That's disciplined. Most people aren't willing to do that. That's why most people can't have what it is that they desire.
I think that's 100% true. I think a lot of people, they have that question of, do I have the foundation? Do I have the support system like everybody else? You said you didn't have necessarily a ton of wealth when it comes to finances, but in terms of love, support, those almost go a lot further in some ways, because then you can kind of create your own wealth, right? As long as you have that kind of foundation. Can you talk about what it was like to have that and what that did for you in terms of your own confidence that you maybe don't think you would have had at a younger age if you hadn't had that?
You know what? It's amazing. I didn't really understand the importance of it then. Being that I have children of my own now, I realize how important it is to pour into my children as often as I can. Like the other day, I was talking to my children, and I was telling them how much I appreciate them and how proud I am of them. And they're like, of what? Of everything. So it's those little things. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get that positive reinforcement that they need. But all hope is not lost, because the only person really who you need to support you is you. It's great if you have a supporting cast of individuals who love and care for you, who support you, but all it takes is you. And as you start to believe in yourself, as you start to love yourself, then the universe will return that love to you through other people.
I like that, Doc. And I think about that. I almost want you to go a step further with that. When you talk about, because I think too, one of the things that I thought was, hey, you know what? I was fortunate enough to come from a family that my parents, neither of them went to college, but they worked their butt off to make sure my brother and I both did. We're in positions to succeed, and everything we did always had, that support system. And that was almost like a different lifestyle, right, than what they were accustomed to. So it almost, at times, it made it hard to relate. So now, me bringing the idea of, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, well, they think of, well, hold on. You have the college degree, that you have that college degree. You worked hard to get that. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's a culture shock, but it's a different set of, I guess, beliefs in terms of what you can be successful with, right, or what it takes to be successful. Now I almost think that some other entrepreneurs, maybe they're even being discouraged by their friends or family that once supported them with everything, but because they were afraid to take that jump, they no longer felt that it would be possible for them, right? And they're almost just projecting that in some ways. What can you say to somebody who's looking for that positive reinforcement outside from someone who has been through, like you said, you dealt with legal troubles, you had nothing, you were in a bad situation, but you found a way to then turn that whole thing around and say, you know what, but that's not going to define me. What can you kind of give as far as support for somebody like that?
I have a saying that if you can't change your friends, change your friends. If you can't change your environment, change your environment. Well, Doc, what does that mean? You may be in a position where you can't physically change where you live. You can't physically improve your environment, but you can mentally and spiritually improve them. Well, what does that mean? You can start to put pictures of the things that you want around you. See, we see through two different lenses. We see from a physical perspective, then we see from a spiritual perspective. As a man desires in his heart, so is he. So if you start to put things that you want around you, not only will you start to see a different environment with your physical eyes, where those images start to become ingrained in your spirit. And then as you start to move in the direction of the things that you desire by changing what you put into your mind, either by reading or listening to positive audio or listening to individuals who have the results you desire. See, we live in the information age. It's literally no longer an excuse with the amount of open access that we have. Some people may say, well, I can't afford the internet. You can afford to walk to the library. They have free internet. See, that's one thing I appreciate about my mom. I come from a traditional household. My mom and dad, fortunately, are still alive, still healthy, still married, 57 years and counting. While my dad worked during the summer, Ari, my mama would make us walk to the library every day because she knew that the key to unlock many of life's doors was contained in books. I've been reading literally since I was 4 years old. My children have been reading literally since they were 4 years old. To this day, before my children can play, they have to read. So I know that access to specific information has the potential to change someone's situation. Doesn't matter if you don't have a computer in your house or internet in your house. If you live in the United States of America, I can't speak for other people around the world, but in the United States of America, there's something called the public library. It's a long lost treasure. Go there, pick up a book, hop on the internet, do some research. You can find mentors on the internet. You don't have to know the individuals. You just need access to the information. Once you start to do these things, you'll see that the universe will start to unlock doors that you never knew existed. That's why I believe that loving yourself is the highest form of love. Once you fully love yourself and understand what it means to be loved by yourself, then the universe will start to send love from different directions from different people. Then you can start to literally change your friends. And once your friends start to change, your mindset starts to change, you can start to change your environment because you change the way you think, which will allow you to change the results in your life.
That's some truth if I've ever heard it. I'll tell you, growing up, I didn't appreciate reading it in its entirety. When you're forced to read a book at school, when you're told this is what we're reading and this is this, and you kind of lose the love, right? You kind of lose the passion if you had it because it's no longer something you have control over, right? You're not feeling that ownership or accountability of, oh, I want to do this, so I'm going to finish this because this means a lot to me. It's more like I have to do this. I have no choice. But as you get older, what I've learned now is reading these different books about investing, about real estate, about entrepreneurship. You start to realize everything is not as complicated. I'm not saying everything's easy and straightforward, but things aren't as complicated as they are made out to be. But it's about stripping your ego, kind of letting down that barrier and saying, I'm just willing to learn, right? I think Jordan Peterson says it. If you want to be the master, you have to first be the fool, right? Be willing to play the fool. And it's that whole imposter syndrome. Like at first you're going to be and feel like an imposter when you've never done something and you're exposing yourself to it. But in time, you can then teach other people through your experiences. When you think about some of the books that you've read recently, is there anything that you can kind of point to that you think would be essential for entrepreneurs looking to grow their business or just as a person that could be beneficial right now?
Absolutely. One I'm on now, Developing the Leader Within You by John Maxwell. And one that I would recommend to anybody, Creative Mind of Success. I think it's Ernest Holmes. Powerful book. I keep that book on my nightstand. I know Bob Proctor, if you're familiar with Bob Proctor, his go-to book is Think and Grow Rich. My go-to book, Creative Mind of Success.
Do you ever just look for specific books saying like, hey, I want to get better in just this, or I want to get better in just that? Or do you say this has the potential to expose me into a bunch of things that, maybe I'm not proficient at or could need more work?
Great question. Of course, sometimes if it's a specific subject, I'll look for books on that specific subject. But Ari, what I'm learning is as I further unlock the potential of my mind, me doing that will lead me to the book that I need to read.
Well said. Absolutely. Doc, tell people where they can find more about you, learn more about what you're doing now, and connect with you.
You can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Carlton Calhoun, on Facebook at Carlton Calhoun. And my whole mission now is to help people multiply the positive results in their life, both financially and in their personal lives, because I believe that it doesn't matter how much money you have if your personal life, your health is in shambles. Fortunately, I have a wife who makes sure that I take care of my body from the inside out. Very important. Connect with me. Let's add value to each other, and hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person.
Doc, tell me, what is something that people can do right now that you do yourself to detox, to step away, whether it's working out, whether it's meditating, journaling?
I have the perfect exercise, and it requires discipline. It's called a 30-day mental fast. Drink nothing but water, exercise at least 30 minutes a day, absolutely no television, radio, engage in 30 minutes to an hour a day of personal growth and self-development. And that allows you to detox and detach from the world because you're literally unplugged. When you wake up every day, instead of going for your phone, go to your affirmations. I have something called a manifesto where I literally write down my desired life. And during the mental fast, when you wake up, you express gratitude. Think of 3 to 5 things that you're thankful for and literally verbally say them. I am so happy and grateful now that I'm rich, wealthy, abundant, and healthy. Say that to yourself in the mirror. Sounds simple, but what I learned is what's easy to do is easier not to do. And believe it or not, just that exercise makes most people uncomfortable. People don't like to talk to themselves in the mirror. But make yourself uncomfortable, because one of my mentors says that your comfort zone is your broke zone. So you have to be willing to become uncomfortable in order to experience growth. So for those really looking to impart change in their lives, I don't use the word try. Participate in the 30-day mental fast. Make sure you get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Cut out the TV. Stop looking at social media the first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. Read 30 minutes to an hour a day. Meditate. And meditate doesn't have to be something fancy. Just sit and be still and reflect upon everything that you're grateful for. And while you're doing all these things, whatever your chosen field of endeavor is, or whatever it is that you want to desire, find books, find information that will help you advance in that area. Now you have extra time. You're not watching TV. You're not listening to the radio. So now you can fill that time with more productive and constructive activities.
Definitely. I think that's some great advice. And I got to tell you, I know my generation talks about Netflix and chill, right? Just talks about watching Netflix, and that's the way to do it. And I got my own apartment in Rockford, and I remember telling my mom one day, calling her and saying, hey, I was going to play video games tonight, but I got to tell you, I'm 23 years old. I got to tell you, I wasn't having fun. I said there was something in me that just said that this was a waste of time. And I love basketball. Basketball's been my whole life. I love 2K. Anybody who knows me knows, I have to get it every year, man. I got to, man. I have to. But I just remember saying this just isn't productive. Now, for a lot of years, I'll say that it definitely helped me with doing different things, if you want to break it down like that, with, going into like my GM mode. And some of those games can help push your thinking of, okay, how do I manage the finances and get this? And how do I do this? And how do I, but it was time to just stop doing that, because it was like a false reality, right? It was like, why can't I just do the same thing I want to do there and start to build my own business, right? And start to change the way I value my time. As somebody who has such a massive impact in a positive way on a lot of entrepreneurs, what's the kind of legacy you want to leave behind, and what's the kind of impact you want to have on your industry when it's all said and done?
I just want people to realize that above all, be good to people, starting with yourself. And I mean in every area of life. Be good to yourself in terms of finances. Be good to yourself in terms of your health and well-being. Just be good to people, because I have a saying, no matter how far you go, karma runs faster than you ever can. So you want to make sure that you do right by people. Never try to get over. You don't have to get over on people. I believe in value for value exchanges. So I want people to understand the importance of that, making good decisions. And for my family and my children, I want to leave behind more than I ever had in this life for them to have in their lives.
Doc, you talk about it being this process that you consistently have to revisit, right? It's not one day you wake up and you have this mindset, or one day you wish and you just keep wishing. Don't confuse patience with lack of action. It's about being persistent with that approach and continuing to take the steps necessary to be in a position to do that one day. And just for other entrepreneurs, guys, if you haven't had a chance to learn about what Doc's doing now, maybe reach out, connect with him on social media, take a step back. Think about how this can be applicable to you and your business, right? Yes, this is somebody who's had success, but it's about breaking down that barrier who at one point in his life, he was struggling. There were a specific set of challenges mentally or physically that he had to endure, as we mentioned before, that it seemed like, man, this was never going to end. But either you're growing or you're suffering. And if you're suffering, you haven't grown yet. So realize that God's taking you through it, right? If you're going through it, you're going through it. And there is that other side that you can come out of. Just hang in there, continue to be consistent, and find ways to improve yourself every day. Doc, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast here, and wish you the best here. Hopefully we can work together in the future in person.
Absolutely. I love it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and serve through my information.
Doc, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Have a good day, Ari. Bye-bye.